There are ups and downs in a person's life path. The black stripes are replaced by white ones. Life goes on as usual. Then the black stripe comes again. Then the white one again. A person makes many mistakes along the way, but absolutely all mistakes can be corrected because nothing is impossible for a human being. In fact, humans are imperfect creatures. Almost all of us have our own weaknesses that have been haunting us since childhood. We repeat our mistakes infinitely many times. We can turn to the experience of the past, to knowledge and skills, but we still make the same mistakes over and over again. One of the reasons may be our perception of the world. We look at ourselves and our actions too subjectively. Because of this, we do not see our mistakes and do not even understand what we are doing wrong. We also tend to forget that we have learned from our mistakes and are making them again. In addition, our nature has its own specifics. We are not always able to learn from our experience. It is generally believed that a person learns from his mistakes. On the one hand, it is, for example, if a person touches a hot surface and gets burned, then he will never touch it with his bare hands again. But this is how physical pain-based learning works and is about simple actions. When it comes to making decisions and taking difficult actions, we tend to make the same mistakes and learn nothing. For example, if a person is often late for meetings, finding himself in an unpleasant situation, he promises himself that he will not be late anymore, but soon the situation repeats. Students often start preparing for exams at the very last moment and also promise themselves that next time everything will be different, but in fact nothing changes. The reason for the same mistakes, according to scientists, lies in the peculiarities of our brain, because the human brain works according to patterns. To put it as simply as possible, by processing information, our brain creates patterns that subsequently help us make decisions. If there is a mistake in these patterns, then during his life a person continues to make it over and over again. We want to believe that we are rational, but in fact we are not. A striking example of this is the fact that our memory distorts memories for several seconds, thereby distorting the perception of reality. Simply put, if we see an object, we remember it the way we wanted to see it, even if it actually looks different. In this way, the brain adjusts the information received to existing patterns and tries to ensure that it does not go beyond them. We also tend to draw conclusions based on a minimum amount of data, while creating a version of reality ourselves that we want to believe in or that is easier for us to believe in. Therefore, the brain filters information to fill in information gaps with the data that we already know. Of course, we can change our behavior pattern, but it should be borne in mind that by nature the brain is very lazy, or if you want, energy saving. By the way, it is for this reason that procrastination is characteristic of every person. This means that it will take a lot of cognitive effort to change the pattern. A person is more likely to return to a previous behavior pattern than to create a new one. The downside of this feature of the brain is bias, which is also characteristic of humans. A person tries to seek confirmation of what he already believes instead of rationally accepting new information and changing his mindset in accordance with new data. This also includes inner instinct, that is, thinking for which there is no rational explanation. Relying on the inner instinct when making decisions, a person actually relies on accumulated past experience, only he does not understand it himself. According to scientists, sometimes people adhere to certain behaviors due to the ego effect, even if this behavior pattern leads to the repetition of mistakes. Most likely, following the same behavior pattern helps us protect our ego. This may be more important than trying to avoid mistakes. According to one study, people were more likely to succeed when they were reminded of past successes. But when people remembered their past failures, the probability of behavior change was extremely low. The reason may be that remembering past failures makes us feel depressed. At the same time, the old model of behavior makes you feel more comfortable. Therefore, at such moments we choose the comfortable model instead of the correct one. There is also a version according to which the brain creates a path of errors after the first mistake, since it assumes that this is the correct way to complete the task. When you repeat the same task, the brain makes the same mistake. Eventually, the wrong path takes root so much that it turns into a template. Everyone has done the wrong thing at least once in their life. We usually see the mistakes of others well, but we rarely notice our own. When we show pride, sometimes it looks like self-esteem, but in fact, it inevitably destroys all the best things that we do. Pride is usually born as a result of long-term success and personal achievements. When everything we want comes true and life becomes what we want. It is at such moments that most people feel like they are the masters of life and become confident that they know everything better than others. Pride is like poison. Outwardly, it seems to be a sense of self-worth, but in real life we too often act harshly, making mistakes because of our own self-confidence and pride. And not only in relationships with others, but even in work, in decision-making, and only then do we realize that we did the wrong thing. Many people are confident that in order for life to become more interesting and enjoyable, you need to live someone else's life. For example, copying the lifestyle and achievements of a successful person. It is at such moments that we often do not see our own merits, personal priorities that help us achieve our goals. We start doing things that we don't like, but it seems necessary for us to achieve our goals. We change our image to someone else's. As a result, the achieved goal causes disappointment and an unpleasant feeling, and the unachieved one causes negative emotions, a feeling of emptiness and loss. Therefore, it is important to look for your own footholds and try to achieve what seems interesting and enjoyable there, even if it does not guarantee success. Conservatism is characteristic of many personalities. Quite often, when we stay put, we think we are holding onto our goods. In fact, the world around us is changing our capabilities and priorities, but many people realize this when the chance has already been missed. Therefore, it is important not to stay in place and try to go your own personal way so as not to stay in place. You can't hold on to a lot of things, no matter how much you want to. And even if you have achieved success, it is important to try to look at what is happening around you and use new opportunities. The development of the world cannot be stopped, and it is important to follow what really exists in it and develop. Only then can we protect ourselves from mistakes. To the question, when does old age come? The standard answer will contain a solid number, the word pension, or the phrase retirement age. But what will an ordinary person answer to the question, when does the brain age? Most likely, he will not even think about the fact that the next number is not quite the right answer. Surely many people know that young people really like to joke that they are getting old, and they joke about it when their conscious life has just begun. From the outside, it may seem that these are just harmless jokes, and at first it will be so. But if a teenager gets too used to this role, he will not understand how quickly he will start to age in reality, how quickly his body will start to hurt, and his brain will start thinking about old age and death. Many middle-aged people give themselves old age as a diagnosis, although when leading a healthy lifestyle, such people can safely play sports, travel, and be active members of society. This is exactly where the most terrible human mistake lies. Old age will come to everyone, it cannot be avoided. But in no case should you call yourself old ahead of time. Or better yet, never call yourself that at all. What is wisdom? It is a person's ability to reflect and act intelligently, based on experience, knowledge, and common sense. There is a fairly common stereotype that all elderly people have wisdom, although in fact not everyone acquires this quality, even in old age. Wisdom can also be possessed by a young person who has surpassed others in understanding life, or an elderly person who has stopped being afraid of old age and death. Wise people realize that death will overtake them in any case, so they are not afraid of it and prefer to live life to the fullest, not caring that death may be very close. Wise people don't age themselves. They use experience and a clear head to reach new heights even in old age. It is timely wisdom that helps people understand how to live properly so as not to regret anything. A person may wonder, what is the main tragedy of life? Benjamin Franklin, the founding father of the United States and the author of the United States Declaration of Independence, gave a very honest, albeit sad, answer to this question. The real tragedy of life is that it is too early to become old and too late to become wise. The great American politician meant that the worst mistake of a person is to consider himself old ahead of time, bury himself and give up on himself.